Hello, welcome to another video. In this one, I want to talk about jazzband. For those of you that don't know, jazzband is a GitHub organization and PyPI release pipeline and a loose collective of individuals. The idea behind jazzband was to make a place for maintainership of open source libraries in a way that made it really easy for anyone to become a contributor. In fact, the way that contribution worked in jazzband is if you made a pull request that got accepted to a project, you were part of jazzband. You were given commitment and you had all the same rights as anyone else in the organization. It was a little bit more complicated than that, but generally it meant that anyone who made a quality contribution became a contributor, became a maintainer. And admittedly, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, admittedly, I don't think that model works all that well, but we'll get to that in a bit. But the point of this video is that jazzband has decided to sunset itself. I guess before we talk about that, jazzband has some wildly popular projects that you've probably heard of. Just off the top, pip tools, a bunch of like Django libraries, tablib I've seen many times before. Admittedly, most of the projects are Django related. So if you've worked with Django, you've probably used a package that is maintained by jazzband. Now, in reality, these projects sort of have their own separate maintainership. Like there's a project lead for all of these that decides kind of the general direction of the project. But for the most part, it's I don't want to say anarchy-driven development, but it definitely allows lots of voices to become maintainers. Which in a lot of ways is good. Like that's a great way to reduce bust factor. Now, the question becomes, why is jazzband sunsetting itself? And I think they give some very specific reasons. And I think actually their quoted reason is somewhat true, but probably not the full root cause of the issue. And the claim of their sunsetting is that it's due to AI slop, which admittedly presents a huge problem for how jazzband operates. With many generated AI spam PRs, there's an overwhelming amount of work that's needed to be done to review and make sure those are well done. But at the same time, when you have PRs that are generated by AIs, it's the like accept a PR, become a maintainer model kind of falls apart. Like the person who makes the PR, in a lot of cases has no idea what AI generated code they're pushing or attempting to integrate into a project. And so adding, people as maintainers in that case doesn't quite align with the original goal, where it was people making pull requests. And so a person makes a pull request, a person gets accepted. They claim this statistic, which I'm surprised how high it is. In that, my experience with AI generated pull requests is usually it's even lower quality than 10%. But they had a significant amount of really poor pull requests sent to their project. And they quote some other things like curl shutting down its bug bounty, which this was really bad. Like curl was constantly being bombarded by security issues that were just AI hallucinations of vulnerabilities that don't exist or were patched years ago or nonsense like that. This is an interesting one because GitHub has sort of had this moderation switch for a really long time. I don't think this was in response to AI, but there is a newer blog post a news article that they don't really cite any sources. They're just, someone had a discussion. Like this article feels like a big nothing burger. Also, I'm not even sure that this is summarized these concerns as follows. This seems like a pretty low effort news article by the Register. But anyway, I think it's clear that there's a lot of signs in open source that there's this influx of AI generated garbage that is slowing down and making maintainership a pain. But I think the problem with jazzband actually extends beyond this. Like this is pretty bad and definitely a significant contributing factor to jazzband. And it's possible that they could have change their maintainership or change their like maintainership criteria to exclude AI generated stuff. But you know, you're in a weird slippery slope there, and so like I understand why this, you know, this in general makes it really, really difficult. The highlighting is really funky in this. It's like the line height is weird. Anyway, this makes it kind of weird for them to accept maintainers in the same way. But I actually think and maybe this is my hot take here, I actually think the design of jazzband's, you know, one PR makes you a maintainer model never really worked from the beginning. In a world where there's many people that are threat actors, like giving people the keys to the castle in open source just based on a single or multiple, even like if it were like 5 PRs, like often gives someone way too easy a way to be a supply chain risk. And in fact, at several of the companies that I've worked at, they would not use any jazzband maintain Python libraries specifically for this reason, because the risk was deemed too high that this anything goes maintainership model would allow malicious code to enter the pipeline. And we've seen things like the whole XZ, what do I even search for this? The whole like XZ, wow, even Wired cover. I mean, of course, Wired covers it. It was huge. Wow, there's a Wikipedia article for it. The whole like XZ thing where a state actor became a maintainer and like played the long game on a project here, and it was only caught by accident. Like this is the stuff that, you know, a jazzband type model would make incredibly easy for someone to, you know, integrate themselves as a maintainer, put malicious code into a you know, wildly popular library. Not to say that these are compromised in any way. Like, you know, I happen to know the pip tools maintainers, and like they're really great about, you know, having a roadmap and moving it forward in the direction they want to, even given the jazzband model. But you could imagine someone operating maliciously and making jazzband, you know, the place where they incubate that malicious code. I'm not saying that happened in jazzband, but it was definitely something where companies I worked at recognized that risk and made a conscious effort to avoid tools or libraries written here. That said, like there are quite a few. The number last I looked was like 72. So maybe some projects have already started migrating away, but there are quite a lot of projects here that are likely going to not have maintainership anymore. I didn't mean to open them. I meant to do a little scrolly. A lot of them are Django related, and so I think the Django community is probably going to be hit the worst by this. But anyway, I wanted to cover this because part of me is like, part of me feels the same way about, you know, the inundation of AI pull requests and the exhaustion that it's causing on maintainers. But at the same time, like I think jazzband was slightly doomed from the beginning. But yeah, oh, they even mentioned the XC stuff in their article. I didn't read the article, so anyway, hopefully you found this interesting, and I'll see you in the next one.